Hey gang, so we're going to do things a little bit different for this little module webinar. This is going to be on just the module that we have coming up. A few of you have already gotten started on it, but for integrating your blended course. And just want to go through some of the things to expect on this. Now, very first thing is that you guys got to understand, we are past halfway through. So this little clip is for you.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-woo!
Ronnie, how happy are folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico? I'd say happier than a camel on Wednesday.
Hump day!
Get happy.
Yeah.
Get Geico.
All right, gotta love that one. Now, just a few things before we start getting into the details of what to expect for this module. A few things that I just want to remind you. First of all, the time log, everybody needs to keep up with that. And those who finish that up, finish the course, not only will you get credits, whether it's the SCEX or the certificate that said you did this, but also they're giving out a free Snagit license for screencasting. Also, just a little reminder on the reflections. Now, the reflections, those are one of my favorite parts of this course, just to kind of see what's working, what's not. Just remember to keep them thoughtful. Getting a few people that are starting to make them really, really brief. I want to see the details on that. So please make sure you're doing that just as kind of like a general rule, about 150 words minimum or so, not to make you jump through hoops, but when they audit the course, they really want to make sure that you're putting in those thoughtful reflections. And also the idea of office hours. I've been offering that. If anybody needs some help with things on your schedule, just let me know, and we'll do a Google Hangout. Right now I've offered those, but no one's been wanting to do them. So hopefully we can find something that works for you. Now, here's the next thing, and I've been talking about this. I consider myself really lucky to be matched up with Bob, because what he's done for the handbook has just been awesome with what to expect, what to look for in each of the assignments. So make sure that you check that out and use that to help make things a little bit easier for you. Now, here's what I want you to expect during this module. The very first assignment that you're going to do is a lesson on academic integrity, and they're just going to walk you through some things. And what we're going to want to know is, after you've gone through this, what kind of academic policy or academic honesty policy does your school have in place? Now, one of the things that I ran into when I started blending my classroom is that sometimes when kids go home and do work, it might not always be them. So how are you going to set something up where they know the expectations, so you have some safeguards in place to make sure that it's really authentic work from the students? And how do you address issues like copyright or other things that students use? One of my favorite tools when it comes to copyright is to completely avoid Google image searches. Just stay away from those, because very few of those are actually or available for people to use. But kids are kind of in the habit of doing that. And what you can use here is this website right here. It's called Creative Commons. You'll learn about that. And if you go to search.creativecommons.org, you can search for images, music, video, and all sorts of other kinds of media that have a Creative Commons license that you're allowed to use. So just something to think about there. We're also going to have a forum about academic integrity. And what we want to know is, how are you going to be able to model the legal and ethical use of technology with your students? We know that there's a lot of, this is a brand new world for a lot of us. And just because it's available doesn't always mean it's appropriate to use. So, for example, I heard the other day about a teacher who had found out a little loophole on how to load buy one app once and then to load it onto 30 iPads. So while you can do that, it's not always the most ethical way to do that. So how can we model the right way of doing this with our students? And then we just want you to share some resources that you could use with your students on that. So the next assignment is actually my favorite part of this. The whole idea behind integrating blended learning into your classroom is that you can really start to rethink how your classroom runs. And one of my favorite things that I was able to do in my classroom was using what's called project-based learning, or PBL. And as you go through this lesson, look for ways that you could incorporate this into your classroom. Now, just something to be aware of. This doesn't mean that you have to revamp your entire classroom. There are little ways that you can incorporate PBL to make learning more authentic and even to be done outside of class. So think about, how does PBL fit into your blended environment, whatever way that you're using. And so let me just give you an example. Ann Lusk, she's one of the Jackson cohort attendees. She's over at Jackson High and she works with the digital media. And one of the things that she's doing is she's using Moodle to let students kind of learn these different tools at their own pace. So what she does is she goes and she posts all the content, she has lots of resource, all the expectations, and it's right there, and students learn how to use these different tools in her class by doing these projects. So really what she's done is she's combined this blended format with PBL to allow students to kind of work at their own pace, but it also frees her up to be able to move around the class. And I just thought that was a great example of blending and PBL. So here, the other thing that you're going to have is this PBL Forum. What we would love, what we would love for you to do is to tell us about some of the Web 2.0 tools that you could use to have this project-based learning environment in your classroom. Also, think about some of the challenges you're going to face. Just because you do this doesn't mean that your kids are necessarily ready for that. So what kind of challenges are going to come up? And just how could you do some assignments online that are, or let me back up. How can you do some of these assignments online, outside of class, or even inside, I guess, to help improve your course? Meaning, what are some of the things that with internet access we could have students do that we couldn't have them do in the past? Then we start getting into this idea of higher order thinking skills. So there's a lesson on Bloom's taxonomy. And what we want to know is, what are some of the ways that you could use collaboration tools or teamwork tools to have students develop these higher order thinking skills in your class? Then on a similar note, this idea of depth of knowledge, and this is something that I've been looking at that really interests me. The idea of these different levels of depth of knowledge. There's a lot of information here, so this may take you a little bit. But as you go through this, how can you use this idea of depth of knowledge, not just in your classroom, but also online? Then there's an activity. We want you to try this out with your kids. So what we want you to do is share a higher order thinking question or problem that you could pose to your students in this next lesson that you're going to teach. So I've got a few examples that I'll show you here in a second. But after you post that, what we want you to do is also go back and see what other people are doing. So take a look at 3 other people and do this. Either suggest a possible Web 2.0 tool that they could use, or go and offer some suggestions or ideas that might help them out. We really want you guys working together and sharing some of these different ideas on getting kids to get to this level of higher order thinking. Now, let me share 2 examples that I really like. Just little kind of bell ringers or starters, something that kids can do to kind of get beyond just worksheets. The first one is called a Google a Day. And the idea is, if we're asking questions that could be answered by doing a random Google search, we probably shouldn't be spending a lot of time on that. But this Google a Day contest lets kids kind of think of ways to, well, just how to be more thoughtful about the ways we search. So let me go back here and click on this and see where it takes us. Okay, so here's our Google of the Day question, and we just want to do the basic game. Okay, so of course this is going to be probably one that we have to screen a little bit, but the idea is, who is the mother of the Victoria's Secret model who married Kings of Leon co-founder Anthony in 2011? So if I went in there and just Googled this, it's not going to help me out. I'm going to have to go through and do some more in-depth searches, or maybe multiple searches to find out, first of all, who married this Anthony from Kings of Leon and who's her mother. And then you go in and put the answer, and then it moves to the next question. So the next one is, man, all sorts of fun ones here. Who was set to fight Amy Fisher's ex-lover on Fox's Celebrity Boxing in 2002 until he was forced to drop out because of an arrest for domestic abuse? That's like two swings and misses right there. Don't know if those are necessarily the school appropriate, but usually they are. Anyways, going back to this other one, this is one of my favorite ones. It's by Dan Myers. It's called 101 Questions, and the idea is to get students to not just observe, but to ask deeper questions about what they observe. So this is an example of what that looks like. Maybe. So what he does is he posts these videos or questions or other things like that, and he wants to know what's the first question that comes to mind. So it's really easy to get kids thinking about things. Now, this is a video that I'm not going to bother to show you, but here's some of the top 10 that he really, really likes. And I'll let you take a look at those, but just think of how you could use that to get kids thinking at a higher level. All right, so after you've shared just something that you can do in class with your kids, what we would like you to do is to think more about building this classroom environment. So for whatever platform you used, whether you're using a Weebly website or Moodle or Edmodo or something different, really doesn't matter. One of the tricks is we got to find ways to get kids to go there, to kind of potty train them a little bit to go to those sites that we have set up. And we also want to make sure that this is a one-stop shop, that they just have one place where they can go to get all that information. So we want you to think of an activity that you could do that would take your students to your website or your platform and using that site. For example, I was working with a teacher the other day, and she teaches high school art. And one of the things that she'd done is she'd built a Weebly site, and she was worried about kids weren't using it, so she created an assignment where she posted a blog post and had a picture, and what those students had to do is for that assignment and for their grade, they had to make one thoughtful comment on that picture, and they weren't allowed to use what somebody else had already said. So it kind of gave them some incentive to be the first ones there, but also it took them to the website so that they got used to using it. So just an idea. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of others. And then that plan. Now, I know a lot of people have been worrying about this, but make sure that you're updating that plan. Every module, we want you to think. In fact, let me back up a little bit. One of the reasons we want you to take this course is to kind of look at what you want to do in your classroom and kind of see where you'd like it to be at the end of this course or maybe in a year or so, and start doing little things to get you towards this. As you guys have discovered, blending your classroom isn't as easy as just saying on Friday, hey, I want to blend this, and then having it done by Monday. It takes time, and it doesn't always work the way we think it does. When I blended my classroom, what I originally started doing looked completely different than where I was 3 years after starting it up. So for your review, it asks you, first of all, what is it that you want to accomplish? what are some of the supports, what are some of the things that are working, who are some of the people that can help you technology-wise, what do you need to do, and just kind of go through that. Make sure you're doing that. I really like reading those to kind of see where I can help you out. So make sure that you update your plan and share that as well. And last of all, the reflection. We just want you to create a thoughtful and honest. I've had some people in this course who have been very blunt about what's working and what's not. And that helps me out a lot as one of the instructors to be able to offer feedback and hopefully some encouragement as well. But let us know how this is working out and how you see this. I don't really want to read fluff. I would rather have you just be honest about what's working and what isn't. And I think it's okay to start small as long as you have this plan that we've talked about. So that is it. Hopefully this helps. What I'm going to do this afternoon is have our webinar open just for kind of questions that you may have about what's going on. So see you then.